that thing, that creepy thing that Microsoft's announced? It's Microsoft Rewind, right? That's what it's called.
Recall.
Rewind. Oh, thank God, you saved me from looking like an absolute pillock.
Well, I wouldn't go that far.
I was going to call it Microsoft Rewind. It's YouTube Rewind, Microsoft Recall.
You got
Well,
it.
I mean, not that they do YouTube Rewind anymore.
No, that's that's
that cringe festive.
Long rest in peace.
Cool. To think we could have made it last year.
The first, to be fair, probably, yeah. We probably have more chance of getting on it being someone who's completely irrelevant than anyone. And
it's like we had just the right level of cringe. Hello and welcome to the Scrambled Checksum podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Kieran, a guy who's recently invented a keylogger, which I'm going to be selling shortly as a rival to Microsoft's creepy recall feature, and I'm joined here by my co-host Ethan, a guy whose memory of the Apple iPhone models is so detailed and who has such perfect recall of those that he's recently been crowned a genius under the new Apple Intelligence Quotient. Ethan, how the hell does it feel to be the highest IQ guy in the whole world?
It feels pretty good. I mean, it's just incredible, really.
AI didn't mean anything before, but now that Apple have given it meaning.
The A stands for Apple. A
means Apple. It was not, that acronym didn't mean anything before, and now you're one of the foremost experts.
Yeah,
on the topic.
Alan Turing would be so happy to know this.
He'd be saying, "God, knowledge of the iPhone models and of Siri, that's what we want."
Yeah. It is what we want, really. It was such an honour and a privilege getting to see Craig Federighi's hair in person.
Did you get to touch it?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Yeah, I understand.
Me and Craig,
kiss and tell.
Me and Craig, we have a special relationship.
Yeah, of course. Now, how did it feel to be constantly in motion the whole time you were there?
You get used to it. You get used to it, and dropping through invisible ceilings and all sorts. It was great. Did
you tread on any solar panels when you were on the roof of the Infinite Loop?
I did, but it's okay because one of the small sweatshop children came and wiped it clean. So it was all good. Yeah.
One of the ones brought from the Foxconn factory.
Yeah, they actually radioed for one of them to be brought over from China.
Direct from Foxconn?
Yes. Yeah.
Allegedly.
Especially for it. Yeah, no, it all happened. True story.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you got to see the facility where they have people standing in line all day, sticking little things onto the bottom of Magic Mouses?
I didn't see that.
It didn't have time.
I didn't have time.
Didn't have time. What about to see the recycling facilities where the iPhones are,
I just didn't.
Unfortunately.
I just didn't give a fuck about it. Yeah. I was more interested in Craig Federighi's hair, really.
Craig Federighi's hair, and
trying to get Tim Cook to crack a smile that didn't cause me nightmares.
I'm guessing as well you also left a hateful comment on a Lewis Rossman video.
I did.
Some copyright strikes while you were there.
I learned how to do the Tim Cook hand chop as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great, very productive visit overall.
Yes.
And how would you rate their kind of workplace policies?
Well, it's interesting you should ask. I can't comment on them, but I could potentially comment on someone else's. This is a very bad way of saying it. This is going into a serious topic now, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it's going into a serious. Yeah,
no more shitting on Apple.
Yeah.
So a while ago, we released an episode 14, The Elephant in the Room.
Pretty much the whole episode was dedicated to the topic, I think, wasn't it?
It was indeed, yeah. Basically talking about the then fresh scandal / alleged scandal / controversy or whatever going on at Linus Tech Tips. And I think for both of us, we basically landed on the only, in the long term, important part of said scandal was the abuse allegations, basically, from a previous employee. If you want the details, tons of videos online that you should probably go and look at. or listen to, watch, or whatever over ours. We'll link some in the description if we remember.
There was one in particular that I will try and remember to link, which
yes,
was...
TechTechPotato.
Yes, a very balanced...
Yeah, we'll link that one down below. It's probably in the link in the description of episode 14 of this podcast as well, in case we forget. Basically, we're bringing it back up now because, 3 weeks ago at the time of recording, and probably 5 weeks ago, I think, by the time this comes out. So we're not exactly hot on the tail, but we were going to record an episode at the time it came out, which still would have been a month delayed, but life and stuff. Anyway, we're talking about it now. Linus Tech Tips, or Linus Media Group, have released a statement in response to the allegations, again, that we'll link below, from the previous employee. Rough summary, basically, there were a number of allegations, sexual assault allegations, just general abuse allegations, mistreatment from an employment perspective, and just treatment from members of staff, including a manager, co-workers. Nothing particularly painting LMG in a particularly great light. So basically, having said that, I think the question, I asked Kieran a question towards the end of that episode, which I'm going to play that clip for our lovely listeners and Kieran now, just to refresh us, because I think Kieran's response to that is quite poignant as to framing the discussion we're about to have after we listened to this and read out the Linus Tech Tips, Linus Media Group response. So you ready to have a listen to that, Kieran?
Let's go for it. I've never been described as poignant before.
Ah, well, there's a time and place for everything. Hopefully this works. I'm just going to unmute that on there. Right, okay, here we go. What would it take to what would it take for you to, if they come out, if the result of the investigation is there was no wrongdoing on the part of the board, their HR, or whatever, what would it take for you to trust that finding?
Is that to say there's no wrongdoing on the part of anyone, or is that to say?
Well, no, on the management structure. If they come out and say, yeah, okay, we've found that an employee did do these bad things and they have been dismissed and are facing whatever other charges that are out of the hands of the company or whatever, then, but the board weren't actually aware of it, or the extent wasn't, the evidence is that the extent of the problem wasn't actually raised with them.
Like what would it take for me to
what would it take for you to go, okay, yeah, I believe that that is what happened, and like what would it take for you to trust that finding?
Think if that's carried out in like an independent investigation, they make public who carried out the investigation, I would trust that as a finding. But I think if they put out a statement to kind of try and say that the board or whatever didn't do anything wrong, then I think that if there's some kind of wrongdoing like to that extent going on, and they just say, oh, we completely weren't aware, then I think at that point I'm thinking you need to take you have to take some responsibility for that. Like
that's the thing though. If they were aware, if they were aware, then I don't think I can ever go back to watching. Right. Okay. So there we go. I think that's enough of that clip. So
yeah, that's the main part, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, you say, well, we're both kind of saying there, because I think I went on to kind of basically just agree with what you said. If they make public who did the investigation, it's third-party investigation, and they basically provide evidence that they've taken actions against the alleged member of staff, and there's sufficient evidence that the board genuinely were misled or weren't aware, okay, we'll let them have a clean slate, as it were, but with a short lead. Mixing metaphors there. Yeah. So, okay, having said that, Kieran, would you like to read through the response from the information that we have available?
Yeah, so this is from 3 weeks ago at the time of recording, so probably 5 weeks ago at the time this episode's going out, so this isn't new information. I don't think there's going to be anything new that comes out in between us recording this and us publishing this. I very much doubt it. Just because I think that, obviously, for pretty apparent reasons, LTT are going to be keen to move on from this. But yeah, here's what they posted 3 weeks ago as of today on YouTube. So, yeah, they put, there was a series of allegations about our company last August from a former employee. Immediately following these accusations, LMG hired Roper Grail, a large Vancouver-based law firm specializing in labor and employment law, to conduct a third-party investigation. Their website describes them as one of the largest employment and labor law firms in Western Canada. I assume that's true. I haven't checked that claim, but yeah. They work with both private and public sector employers. To ensure a fair investigation, LMG did not comment or publicly release any data and asked our team members to do the same. That's kind of what we'd assumed was going to be the case anyway.
Yep.
Now that the investigation is complete, we're able to provide a summary of the findings. So they state that the investigation found that claims of bullying and harassment were not substantiated, allegations that sexual harassment were ignored or not addressed were false, any concerns that were raised were investigated. Furthermore, from reviewing our history, the investigator is confident that if any other concerns had been raised, we would have investigated them. There was no evidence of abuse of power or retaliation. The individual involved may not have agreed with our decisions or performance feedback, but our actions were for legitimate work-related purposes and our business reasons were valid. Allegations of process errors and miscommunication while onboarding this individual were partially substantiated, but the investigation found ample documentary evidence of LMG working to rectify the errors and the individual being treated generously and respectfully. When they had questions, they were responded to and addressed. In summary, as confirmed by the investigation, the allegations made against the team were largely unfounded, misleading, and unfair. With all of that said, in the spirit of ongoing improvement, the investigators shared their general recommendation that fast-growing workplaces should invest in continuing professional development. The investigator encouraged us to provide further training to our team about how to raise concerns to reinforce our existing workplace policies. Prior to receiving this report, LMG solicited anonymous feedback from the team in an effort to ensure there was no unreported bullying and harassment, and hosted a training session which reiterated our workplace policies and reinforced our reporting structure. LMG will continue to assess ongoing continued education for our team. At this time, we feel our case for a defamation suit would be very strong. However, our deepest wish is simply to put all of this behind us. We hope that this will be the case, given the investigators' clear findings that the allegations made online were misrepresentations of what actually occurred. We will continue to assess if there is persistent reputational damage or further defamation. This doesn't mean our company is perfect and our journey is over. We are continuously learning and trying to do better. Thank you all for being part of our community.
So, yeah. What are your thoughts?
I don't know about you, but I had to take some time to kind of unpack my feelings about that.
Yes, so did I.
I did a lot of stewing on that.
Yes.
Because in a way, it kind of like the overarching take, if you read that, is, you know, basically the allegations were
false, basically.
Defamatory,
yeah.
Even if that end part, which is, I mean, that's a message right at the end. That's,
yeah. Oh, absolutely.
You know, so they're saying effectively comments were defamatory. It kind of read to me like at first glance anyway that like everything was untrue.
Yeah.
And by the grace of us at LMG, you are not now having to fight a defamation lawsuit.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to feel about that end bit. Really, I think if we just for now, if we just ignore the last two paragraphs,
yeah,
and just focus on the summary of the findings, what are your thoughts on that?
So I mean, after a lot of like thinking and stewing on it, my kind of thoughts are like they've kind of met most of what I said. Like, they've revealed who did the investigation. From what I can tell, it's, you know, I'm not a lawyer. It's a legitimate firm. I don't think they'd have any vested interest to find in their favour.
Other than the fact that it's presumably being paid for by
it is, but
Linus
like
Media Group.
It is, but like, I don't know. I don't think that there's no way you can hire someone to do an independent investigation and you not have that argument leveled against you, short of, I don't know. There's no way around that, right? You're always going to... I think that's fair enough. A lot of it, sounds like they investigated. Obviously, it's old information, so it's not clear how in-depth that investigation's going to go. Obviously, they didn't have cameras on the employees 24/7, so it's not... Obviously, they can't potentially reveal the full details of what the investigation involved, but it sounds like there's not going to be a way for them to kind of say, oh, we looked at video of everything that happened and that, but it sounds like they've kind of found in their favour on most of it. Process errors and miscommunication, that sounds common for a team that's growing. You can imagine if you're hiring a bunch of people, someone, especially like with how the person in question was hired, you can imagine it would have been done in kind of a rush. So that makes sense. They were growing quickly. That was a lot of the criticism that Nexus had, was that they were getting sloppy.
Gamers Nexus, to be clear.
Gamers Nexus,
the people who... not strictly relevant really to this particular, but kind of what Gamers Nexus, the allegations that Gamers Nexus levelled against Linus Tech Tips around their editorial policy was kind of the catalyst that led to these allegations coming to light, basically.
Yeah, and I think like my overarching feeling was like, okay, I guess they've done a full investigation, like they said. I didn't think we'd hear anything more of it, if I'm being honest. So I'm happy to admit I was wrong with that. I wasn't necessarily expecting another video. This is a pretty detailed response. Can't really pick too many holes in that. The one thing that stuck at me though was like, was the one that the allegations that sexual harassment were ignored or not addressed were false. Which sounds like, okay, cut and dry. We didn't do anything wrong. But that is basically... It says that they were ignored or not addressed were false. That doesn't say that the allegations were false.
I hadn't picked up on that.
But it's like, okay, so you're saying at the end all this stuff about, oh, we've got a case for defamation. It could just be with the way this is worded, but like to me that's like, the allegations that they were ignored or not addressed was false. Cool, that's good obviously that's good that they weren't ignored or not addressed, but like something was addressed then. Does that mean?
I don't know. I'm not a,
it's hard to
I'm
say,
not a lawyer, and this isn't a legal document.
It's not.
So
but they're worded by, you guarantee this has probably been signed off by someone to say like, when you're using words like defamation, the odds are someone's sent this to general counsel or whatever and said like, hey, is this, can you give this a okay for us to post? But that bit just stuck out at me of like, okay, you end it with that, but...
So maybe,
does that mean that there were allegations that were upheld, action was... and you're saying we took action?
Well spotted.
Which is like... That was, to me, the largest part of the allegations.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I know there was other stuff around it, and that can kind of make sense. I would kind of err on, okay, they're probably right then about the whole stuff about, like, that I think one of the allegations was around something like unrealistic workloads and unrealistic deadlines.
Yeah.
Whether that kind of reads like, okay, maybe, I'm just speculating here, maybe that was just a case that the workload seemed unreasonable, but to these guys it was reasonable.
Yeah.
These legal guys have come in, they've kind of said, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. You weren't going, the processes weren't great, but you were probably not, this probably wasn't like a abuse of power or like a, I don't know, like a bullying thing. It's like you can, I don't think, I'm again not a lawyer, but I don't think there's anything legally wrong, obviously completely ignoring the moral side of things. I don't think there's anything legally wrong with kind of being demanding on your employees.
No.
Like, it's not great as a workplace thing, but it's not, you don't get into legal trouble for asking a lot of your employees, or yeah, even probably to the extent of like there's some pressure on like if you stay late and finish this and crunch it, then you know you'll be in the in group. If you don't, then
yeah,
you won't see the kind of promotions and the reward for that. And it's like that's the sad reality. That's like the games industry, right?
I think that's just the reality of capitalism, though, really, at the end of the day. I think that's just... I don't think you can necessarily point a finger at a particular company for being... I mean, obviously, some take it to an extreme.
Yeah.
But I think that's the reality of being a company that's kind of growing
well.
and scrambling to... Yeah, like it's not like it does have an impact not getting stuff out for a deadline on the company, and it's out of the company's control, that impact. They can't just kind of go, yeah. So, okay, so would I just to summarize your thoughts on the findings of the investigation, then what would you say?
I think it was probably a tough place to work. It might still be, hopefully less so. Being a tough place to work, and probably a tougher place to work as it was back then, isn't illegal.
Yeah.
There's no...
You have every right to leave and find a different job.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a shitty argument because it's like, you can say, well, I've got rent and stuff to pay, but like at the end of the day, the legality situation is they've not committed a crime. It's not like harassment or like bullying.
Yeah.
To be a demanding workplace. And I can imagine it probably is a demanding workplace. It's a competitive...
Yeah, but I think to a degree you have to kind of... I feel like it should have been... I would be more surprised if it wasn't, to be honest. 'Cause I think that's just the industry that they're in.
Yeah, and like you hear the people who were there at the beginning talk about like, oh yeah, well we, like pull all-nighters and stuff like that. And that's great if you're starting something, and you can imagine the scenario where people like that come in at the beginning and they're scrapping and they're working at all-nighters and stuff, and they're building something, and then they grow it to a company and they expect all the employees to have the same thing. So when someone's like, hey, I got to go home on time, they're like, whoa, do you not care? You can kind of imagine that exact scenario playing out, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't create a great workplace, but it's a very different thing to bullying.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was my thoughts on that, and I guess
So do you trust the finding? I guess is my question.
I have no reason not to. It's not something they've put out internally. They seem to have. I don't know what more they could have done. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like I don't. You can't. I don't know what else they could have done that would have been more like clearing their name than hiring a law firm to do an investigation. I can't think of anything that I feel like it'd be unfair to say this isn't enough without then saying they should have done this and this, and I can't think of anything they should have done. I'm a little bit troubled by the allegations they were ignored and not addressed were false. Yeah, okay. It sounds like there were allegations then that were probably true that were maybe addressed allegedly. I don't know.
But how were they addressed? We don't know.
How were they addressed? Were they addressed correctly or not? There's probably some like, I don't know. It feels a little bit like there was some. You put your prominent details of here's what we've been cleared on. And it might well be that there was something in the report from the law firm that was like, I don't know. These allegations could have maybe been handled better. They felt they couldn't talk about them for legal reasons. I don't know, they maybe have let someone go and they're not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
Could be. That's kind of the impression I got, is that they were cleared on the bulk of it. Fair enough. Can't think of anything else they could have done to clear the name.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I'm not sure about. Like I say, I'm not a lawyer and I don't know anything about Canadian employment law, so I don't know what they would or wouldn't be allowed to say if they had got rid of someone or if there had been a process. Like,
I feel like it's a situation where, yeah, the bulk of what they've put in here is probably, they've been cleared on it.
I guess from my perspective, I still feel very uneasy.
Yeah, I think the person in question had a real shitty time there. I don't think that's untrue at all. And I think they probably had a shitty time there. it's probably, I don't know, it sounds like it wasn't the case that it came from the top, which is something, but like, I think someone was shittily treated, and that probably, it was probably handled, it was handled.
Yeah.
And as a result, they've kind of, yeah, we've dealt with it. We did address it. We didn't ignore it. All the rest of it was fine. We're good. But I don't know how that sits with me in terms of, like, I don't see why anyone... I don't... This feels like they're saying they made it up.
Yeah, but that's what I'm getting from it, basically, as well.
Yeah. And I don't think that...
And that doesn't sit well with me.
No, I don't think that, someone would make that up. I know it's not impossible, but I don't know why you would make that up.
I can't see... I just can't see an angle from the accuser's perspective. I can't see what she would have to gain from making those accusations.
Exactly.
I mean, that doesn't mean that she wouldn't make false accusations. And I think, like I said at the time in the original podcast, I don't know whether I particularly articulated it very well, but I was trying to say, like, I don't have any reason to believe that she's making a false accusation, but I also have nothing to go on with her specifically in terms of her character. Or all I know is from what she's posted on the internet, and I don't know whether she...
And you have to
I have no way of knowing whether she is the kind of person who would make that sort of false allegation or not. So you have to kind of keep open the possibility that it is false accusation. But I think, like I said at the time, I'm like 99.99999% sure that it's not a false allegation.
Yeah, that's what didn't sit right with me too. And I kind of had the same thought of, like, you don't know because you're not there, but you have to kind of take things at good faith and kind of assume, okay, there's a very low likelihood that someone will make something like this up. And I assume you're on the same boat with me of, like, not wanting to name the person because I don't want to... I know this is the kind of thing where someone gets harassed for making allegations.
Yeah, although it's very easy to find out who it is.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want to go and...
I don't want to make it any easier than it already is.
No, likewise. But yeah, like, I kind of get the impression that they had a shitty, bad employment experience, and it didn't end particularly well, and it sounds like the allegations were maybe investigated, but I don't know, nothing in here says that they didn't happen.
Is it forgivable?
It's a tough... Because we don't have the info here, right, of what happened with that. It just says that they weren't ignored and they were addressed. Without knowing, you know, I guess they were found to have not ignored them, so something got done. I guess it's like, if you're putting yourself in that position, if you hire someone and they do a shitty thing to an employee and you find out about it and you deal with it, like, presumably you get rid of them, does that mean you're to blame?
I think if you've done... I think it's a very difficult position to be in.
It's nuanced, right? Because it depends on, like, how much you knew about, like, that person. I don't know.
Yeah,
like...
I don't think you can be held responsible for a person I think it's impossible to know what some there's only so much you can do to kind of get a kind of picture of what someone's personality is and what their behavior is going to be like prior to hiring them. There's obvious things, like, obviously if they've got a criminal record, deserved or otherwise, that can be an indicator. There's employment history. Have they been sacked from previous jobs? You can do a bit of a social media search, but, like, until they start working for you, you can't really get a feel for it. And even then, if you're running a company that has, well, realistically, I think, like I said last time, more employees than can work in one room together at all times. Like, there's going to be stuff going on that you don't know about. I think it's unfair and unrealistic to expect a business owner to know everything that's going on at their company. It's just not practical, is it? And
No, exactly. And it's like, I think a big part of the problem that they had was that because they were growing so fast, people were being made managers of people and getting direct reports added to the business. But like, it's a very different scenario dealing with someone when you're their boss and they work for you, and they're not going to treat you in the same way as then if you hire someone and say, hey, you work for this person, they're your boss.
Yeah.
It's like you add that level of like management to their job, and it's a very different relationship. They're going to act differently with you than they would with someone who reports to them.
Yeah, and equally, like, power can go to people's heads as well.
Yeah,
there might be, if they've never had the opportunity to abuse the power before, then they wouldn't have shown that they were going to abuse power, would they?
Or they've never had power before in a job, and now suddenly they've got someone working for them that they can.
Yeah,
it's something. It's a skill too, and like.
Yeah.
So
it might not.
People are bad at it
I guess you could
until they've learned.
Exactly. Yeah.
Obviously, if it goes to the point of harassment, that's not like you
but I
need
don't
to get
think
some training.
It didn't seem like the allegation was that the manager was harassing them. It was other people, and when they reported it to their manager, then they were allegedly accused of making a fuss, basically, from summarising.
Yeah, and from the sounds of this, it sounds like eventually, I don't know, allegedly they raised it to a level where it was no longer ignored. And I guess, like, that's unfortunately what needs to happen sometimes.
I think that's, like, having worked in companies the same size, I'd say it doesn't surprise me that would be the case, and it doesn't, and it
sucks because it means that, like,
I think I don't like to have this. I'm just hesitant to point a finger specifically at Linus Media Group for things that I think are just a societal problem, not that specific company problem.
It's hard too because it's like it's a very different thing. So you could say there's such a like. I know he's not technically CEO anymore, but you feel like it's.
He's still the owner.
Yeah,
and he was the CEO at the time.
Exactly. And it's very easy to kind of say, well, he's the one that's ultimately to blame. But like,
well, him and Yvonne, they're effectively 50% each.
You look at like the scenario, and it's okay. He's got a channel that's rapidly growing. He's keen to expand it. The mistake of hiring people and perhaps promoting them too quickly, just speculating here, and ending up with a business where processes weren't defined and people were in management positions who probably shouldn't have been in management positions. Like, that's a very different allegation to level at someone than it is to say you had this harassment going on under your watch and you didn't do anything. Like, hiring too quickly, and it sucks because the outcome is the same, but does that make Linus personally responsible for what happened if it's something that he didn't know about? It's like, to me, there's a level of separation there.
Yeah, I really just don't know where I fall on this.
No, I feel
because I don't feel like we really know what happened, and I don't feel like you say, I don't think we realistically are ever going to know what happened, and I think I'm kind of biased towards finding them guilty because I'm kind of I really don't want to be, because part of me wants to just go back to watching them because it was such a big part of my life for so long.
Yeah.
And I think because of that, the other part of me, I've got another part of me that's going, right, well, we need to be absolutely sure before we go back because we don't want to let that bias kick in. And that's left me basically being torn in two different directions as to how I respond to this, really.
I think for me, I'm like, I had a quick look at the comments and it was like largely people making like jokes about it and like
the real mixed
bag.
Wasn't it?
In summary, unless the comments were deleted, that's a whole other level of, did it happen? Whatever. It seemed to largely be, okay, this draws a line under it for me. Great that you guys can kind of start fresh, or just people making jokes was my kind of summary of the comments. from what I saw, obviously I didn't read all 3,500-ish of them, but like,
Yeah.
it's generally tended to be make a joke or this is great, which is, you know, fair enough if that's your take from it, and that this is kind of drawing a line under it for you. Okay, I still feel a little bit uneasy about it.
Yeah.
I didn't like how it ended. I don't know.
That end
like
bit feels like it was unnecessary.
Yeah, it was just kind of it felt like a threat, and
Yeah.
I don't know. If
I can see how it could be meant as not a threat, to just kind of illustrate, look, guys, we basically really do believe that we did nothing wrong here, but we're not going to pursue it. But I also just kind of, I don't know, I'm not sure whether to read it like that or to read it as, I feel like that's probably how they want you to read it.
Yeah.
But equally, as the person raising the allegations, if I was reading that, I'd be shitting bricks.
Yeah, you wouldn't, it wasn't necessary, I don't think, for this to still be like a strong statement of most of what was alleged we were cleared on. I don't think you needed to start putting stuff about like, oh, our case for defamation strong. It's like, I don't know, that feels a bit like you're kind of saying,
they're basically saying you better not post a response to this.
Yeah,
basically that's how I'm reading it.
You read that as like, we don't want to hear about this again, or we're going to come after you.
Yeah.
And you know, it says misrepresentations, not untruth.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, as we'll continue to assess if there is persistent reputational damage. That's definitely like, do not say anything about this ever again.
Yeah.
Or, you know, it's like the reputational damage thing as well. It's like, we don't want to hear anything from you ever again. This ends here.
Basically, yeah.
Fair enough if that's what they've been advised to say. That feels a little bit like, you know, you're making a threat. Do you really need to make a threat if your argument's that strong? Probably not.
Yeah, that's why I feel like, was that last paragraph a gamble? Where they were just kind of like, should we add this in to make her think we've got more than we've got? Or, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's, you know.
Like I say, I can see how someone who went into this who went into that job, maybe with their mental health not in a particularly, as someone who suffers from a mental health condition, and with the power of hindsight, I know that situations that have happened throughout my life, looking back at them, I can see how basically the fact that I was not in a good place basically meant that I blew things that happened to me or happened around me out of proportion. It doesn't mean that those things were great and that nothing was bad, but it kind of like turned them into something that they weren't, if that makes sense. Like, they got amplified because I was not in a bad place. I was not in a good place myself. So I can see how someone going into a job in a high pressure environment might take things more personally than perhaps is reasonable, and perhaps might misconstrue certain even misconstrue just kind of good-humored banter as bullying, or kind of I could see that happening to me, like when I've been I could see that happening to me. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like I'm probably gonna forever sit on the wall with this one.
Yeah, I mean, there's no, I don't see, I'm not going to go ahead and say, oh, this is, I'm not going to kind of join the consensus of, and I guess it's a self-selecting group, because if you're commenting on this, you're probably still a fan of them, you're still watching their videos, whatever, you're more likely to be a supporter on there.
Yeah, I actually only found out about this because for some reason, despite the fact that I've told YouTube not to recommend me anything from Linus Media Group, Linus Tech Tips, or basically any of their channels, for some reason this community post popped up in the recommended under another video that I was watching.
Oh, weird.
That's how I found out that they'd responded.
Yeah. And then I found out because you told me. So yeah, it's like, I think I'm not going to join the kind of, oh, this is all good, everything was great. I think there were problems there. I think someone was treated very poorly. It sounds like that poor treatment was addressed eventually. Probably it took a little while from the sounds of this.
Longer than it should have done, yeah.
Yeah, and, I'm sorry that happened. That sucks. I can't imagine how awful that must be, and that's why the kind of bit at the end doesn't sit right with me. But that being said, it sounds like there probably isn't anything more sinister going on in terms of, I don't think, from the sounds of this and the information we've got, there's not a kind of anything bigger of like, oh, this Linus was personally going around doing this, that, or the other, and they've covered it all up, or, so pending further info, I think this is about as much as I could expect them to do.
Yeah.
In terms of
there's one bit that, while you mentioned Linus, because there was one bit that specifically, there's a couple of bits that specifically called out on Linus. One that comes to mind was in the allegations specifically, it said that Linus was accused of sexual misconduct by a woman, and he came over and ranted about how insane she was or something to that effect, in front of the employee who made these allegations at the time. And I can totally see that something that probably did happen, allegedly. I can also see how, like, being in Linus's position, like, you're probably not going to respond to that kind of thing very well, are you? True or otherwise.
And then there was the whole.
I think it could have been a bit of a wrong place, wrong time, sort of. Probably a fight or flight response.
It sounds like as well the video that got posted, that was probably after, again, just based on this is all allegedly, but probably they've got rid of someone. They're you get rid of someone suddenly, people notice. You kind of have to bring everyone together and be like, oh, hey, you'll notice this person's not here anymore. Here's a reiteration of our policies, blah, blah, blah. That really ill-advised comment. I forget who made it, but that was, pretty tone-deaf. But,
yeah, but equally also, I think just kind of nerves, just in a, like, just kind of breaking the ice, kind of breaking the ice. I can, like, I don't think that necessary. That when I listened to that clip, I was kind of like, I don't know. I feel like there's just a kind of like it's always a bit of a kind of awkward situation when you get pulled into a meeting like that, or like an all hands on deck, and it's kind of like everyone's probably just sat there thinking, oh god, okay, this is, and then someone that has to say something to kind of crack that and go, right, okay, everyone back to work, sort of.
Yeah, it was the wrong thing to say.
Yeah.
But, like, yeah, I think they've done all they can.
The other, again, I guess the other allegation leveled specifically against Linus was the comment he made about when she raised concerns about how she was not in about her streaming contract, I think, with the sponsor contract and stuff she had with LMG, and that she was told that maybe she should be worrying about other things, which was a reference to the fact that her brother had died a couple of weeks before or something. And again, I think I point back to my previous comment where I was like, I think that when you're in a bad place, people can say things without thinking, and that was probably a stupid thing for him to say, but also doesn't necessarily mean that it was meant in the way that you took it. And I can see how I could have misconstrued a comment like that when it was not meant in that way. I'm not saying that it wasn't meant in a poor taste or anything. I'm just, I think...
You're not saying it was right, but what you're saying is it's like...
I think shit happens and it doesn't... People say things without thinking, and people... I think, like I say, I think to draw a line on it, I think, would it be fair to say we're both kind of on the fence, basically?
Yeah, I think so. And I think in terms of the videos, if you feel fine with watching them, I don't think... I wouldn't say, like, oh, I'm never going to watch another one of their videos now. I wouldn't necessarily seek to buy a ton of merch or subscribe and religiously watch every time I see them drop a video, but if I see one pop up, maybe I'll watch it, maybe I won't. But I think there's definitely, for me, I don't know if you feel the same, but like there's now definitely an element of like, maybe I'll give this one a miss.
Yeah. I just don't think that I can. I think for me, like, I need to, as much as I hate it, and I do strongly believe in innocent until proven guilty, this just makes me very uneasy, and I just feel like I wish we lived in a world where when stuff like this happened, we did have more access to information, because I just don't feel like I have enough information to make a decision. I don't.
Yeah. I feel the same. It's like I'll see a video by them and I'll be like, oh, they're posting a review of like a new piece of tech, and like instead of what I would do before of like, oh, what's Short Circuit, it'll be like, let's see if Marquez has covered this yet.
Yeah.
And it's kind of telling, right? There's other channels that have grown like this and don't have these same problems.
Yeah.
Like Marquez has a team. I know it's not probably as...
It's nowhere near as big, but then he doesn't produce as many videos, and it's a different style of content. And
but like, yeah, I've not seen anyone say, Marquez is creating a shitty work environment. So it's like,
yeah,
now it's like a new piece of tech comes
out.
Don't
come after my boy.
I know, it's like now a new piece of tech. I don't know. It's just like that's my take on it. Is now when a new piece of tech comes out, I would have sought out LTT or Short Circuit or one of their channels. Now I'm like, I'll find Marquez, see if he's done a video.
I guess on a positive note, I have broadened my horizons because there's not really a drop-in replacement. Sorry, frog in my throat. There's not really a drop-in replacement for Linus Tech Tips because they're such a broad kind of band of topics. But I have kind of come across quite a load of other smaller tech YouTube channels that I've started watching on various topics. I'm still following certain creators. Like I still follow Terran and like individuals and stuff from there, and some of the stuff that they do. I think I'm kind of okay. There's certain people who I'm kind of like, I'd be really shocked if they had anything to do with any of this. Him like being Luke. One of them. Yeah. Probably like, yeah, to be fair, yeah, probably Luke. Although he is on the board, so
he is.
I don't know.
Like, he's kind
but during the entire time he was working on Floatplane and wouldn't have had any involvement in any of it. So
yeah, he's kind of got his own team.
Yeah. So yeah, probably not Luke and like Emily Young. As
exactly.
Well. She's got her own YouTube channel. Doesn't post very often to it, but
the fact that she didn't leave.
Yeah,
kind of makes me think maybe they're not all bad.
Yeah,
there's good.
Yes, especially with her. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a good point.
There's, like any company, there's good and bad managers. It sounds like they've gotten rid of or dealt with.
Well, we don't know that. That's all speculative. We don't know whether they have or haven't got rid of anyone really.
But it sounds like they've dealt with it to the satisfaction of a law firm. So
yeah,
it doesn't make. That's not me downplaying what is a terrible situation.
Yeah,
like that's awful. And I
shall we move on?
Let's move on.
I don't think we have anything else to say. I think we
have no more takes.
Good. It's been good to talk about it though.
What I do have a hot take on. Speaking of YouTubers, and it's a bit more lighthearted. Why the bloody hell am I seeing adverts on YouTube for Opera GX?
Like actual adverts or sponsor spots?
Sponsor spots.
I haven't.
You've not seen... Oh my god, the amount of sponsor spots I've had from people saying about how they've switched to Opera GX. If you switch to Opera GX as a YouTuber, freaking
is it even
prove it.
Is it even still... I don't know whether it's even that much of a boast, though, at this point. Like, isn't Opera Chromium-based still? Or
it is. As far as I understand, it's Chromium. It's now pivoted. They're a browser for gamers now, apparently.
Is Opera GX Chromium?
I'm sure it's Chromium. It didn't used to be, but I'm sure it's Chromium.
Yeah.
But, like, why the hell? Okay, here's what I don't get. How, as a free web browser... Like, Mozilla Firefox don't sponsor YouTubers.
Yeah, it's based on Chromium. I think Mozilla have. I'm pretty sure I have had a integrated sponsor spot for Mozilla Thunderbird.
Oh, see, that's the email client. I need to switch my sponsors because I use that. Mozilla, hit me up if you want me to sponsor Thunderbird. I do legit use it for work.
Be sponsored by Thunderbird.
Please.
Oh, speaking of things that I've switched to, actually, this is on a wild tangent, but I'm currently trialing Ecosia again.
Oh, nice.
Because they've, a sponsor spot came up for Ecosia, and apparently, the thing that convinced me to go back to them is they now kind of cross-pool results from... I have no reason to believe that they weren't ever doing that. The reason I stopped doing it is the search results were just woefully...
Yeah, they were not the best.
But they now are cross-pooling results from Google and Bing.
Oh, like Dogpile used to, way back in the day.
Sure, I totally know what that is.
Might be before your time. It used to be a search engine that would the idea was it was the best search engine because it just compiled the resuls from all of them.
Kieran's a bit older than me. He's he's moving into his next phase of life. He's buying a house, and
I'm going to be put out to pasture soon.
Yeah,
I'm just checking if Dogpile
he's going to have to.
It still exists.
Oh, okay.
It looks like it freaking looks like if you go to dogpile.com, you'll see like when this was last had any kind of.
Oh Christ!
Yeah.
2013, circa 2013 vibes.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. It's crazy how you like. I don't know if do you ever go back and look at screenshots or you ever find screenshots of things from that you think of? It's 2013. Yeah, we had a modern interface back then, and then you look at it and like, oh my god, Google Chrome looks so dated back then.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You don't realize how much things change because it just changes so slowly, doesn't it?
Yeah, I've got screenshots from let me think. This one's pretty old. I've got screenshots from when I was running XP.
Wowzer.
Yeah, this screenshot here that is from 2008.
Wow.
So I've got a screenshot here that features Steam, circa 2008.
Let's see what I can find.
Which is dated.
I'm just... oh, no.
So what's your to go back on topic, what's your take on Opera?
I wouldn't touch it with a barge pole. It's still Chromium. If you're gonna... yeah, fuck it.
But how are they advertising on YouTube? Like, where's that money coming from?
Good question.
Do you think any of those?
What is their money? Do Opera make any other products? Are they owned by someone? They must have been bought.
They claim that they make money from default search engines, which used to be fucking Yandex.
I've never even heard of them either.
It's the Russian Google.
Oh wow, okay.
I assume that Yandex isn't the default anymore.
One would assume not.
But apparently they make money from Google being the default search on Opera.
How much is Google paying Opera to be the default search?
They're not paying them like Apple money to be the default search.
There's no fucking way. How many? What percentage install base must Opera have? There's no way.
Apparently they make some other money from partners. God knows what that involves. But they have no paid product.
Opera ads. So you can advertise. They've got an advertising
But
business.
Again, who's advertising on Opera?
They must have carved themselves out a little niche in the advertising business. Like small websites that like you've never heard of that your gran uses or something.
But the thing is, they say as one of their browser features, built-in ad blocker.
Maybe it doesn't block Opera
don't block their own ads.
Yeah.
And like some of this is just false. This type of ad blocking feature is not available in Chrome. So I can't install ad block on Chrome and get the same result.
If you can install it in Opera, I'm pretty sure you can install it in Chrome if it's a Chromium-based browser.
Yeah, it also installed. So they're going for their website builds them as a as a gaming browser. It's a browser for gamers,
which is bollocks.
I know you can limit the RAM of that the browser has.
Look, if you've got a gaming computer in 2024 where the game is the difference between a game being playable and unplayable is whether or not you have your browser open. I'm sorry, but you've spent your money incredibly poorly.
Exactly. Like,
like unless you've literally just bought a all you could afford is a £50 like second-hand laptop, in which case I'm not shaming you, but like it feels like a niche. Like,
also, like, what's the... Okay, so Opera's thing is that, like, you can restrict the amount of RAM that it uses. The reason it uses a lot of RAM is because it's Chromium-based, so could you not just restrict the amount of RAM it uses by not doing the Chromium-type model?
they must... Here's my completely unfounded speculation. They've cut basically virtually all their staff back compared to the old days. They've gone Chromium, so they no longer have to maintain their own... browser engine, so they need a much smaller dev team. They've got some other they've got some other income streams that they're not shouting about on their website probably, and they've carved themselves out a little niche, and they're now trying to gain some market share with the browser to see if they can, break back into that market. That's my take.
That's probably what it is. And like, I'd love to know what you think about their built-in tracking protection.
Every browser has that.
I know.
It's not a... That's like saying, hey, yeah, this car even comes with brake lights.
They claim that... so they're like, oh, Google collects a lot of data from Chrome by default. You guys are collecting the same data, I am sure of it, allegedly. And you're just sending it to Opera.
Are they even saying that they're not? Or are they just pointing out that Google does?
They say... Google collects a lot of user data from Chrome by default, and privacy settings are in a separate section where most of the sync features are enabled by default. They're not.
Yeah. To be fair, Firefox is also guilty of that. The only reason I use Firefox is because, as far as I can tell, it's the only viable non-Chromium browser on Windows.
Which Opera might have been had they not just done this shit.
Yeah, if Opera was still using their own browser engine, then I'd consider them.
Do you want to know what their advantages are over Opera? Over Firefox?
Go on.
They've got a built-in music player.
What?
What? They've got this Opera browser sidebar that you can play your music from Apple Music, Spotify, YouTube Music, Deezer, and Tidal.
Who's asking for that?
Yeah, completely pointless.
What? What do you even need that for? You just have the window open in the background, or just snap the window to the side. Like, why?
Yeah, it's
who's
completely
asking
pointless.
for this?
This even better feature, a built-in ad blocker. So their built-in ad blocker ensures your browsing isn't littered with dozens of ads.
Isn't that like every ad blocker?
Well, this says that Firefox also has a built-in ad blocker, but most users opt for a separate extension that works better. So does that extension also work better than yours, Opera? Than your built-in ad blocker?
I mean that's true. I have a separate ad blocker. I don't trust...
But, like, does that mean that you would then trust Opera's?
Well, if it worked good enough for I'd have to test it.
Yeah, but, like, they're like, oh, web pages will load faster because you don't have the adverts. But, like, how is that different from a regular ad blocker that you install on Firefox?
It's not.
No. You save battery life because it's got a battery saver feature.
Right.
Apparently extends battery life up to 35%.
Does it? That sounds like a dubious
without
claim.
Sacrificing performance. No citation.
Compared to what, though? Well, compared to Chrome, that's using the exact same software.
Compared to Firefox, it has a battery saver feature.
Okay, I could. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know. There's no link to a source for that 35% evidence.
Yeah.
Up to as well. File sharing, custom feature that allows you to securely send attachments between devices. All you have to do is scan a QR code to connect your browser to your mobile browser. That's actually kind of cool.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Like
apparently Firefox used to have a similar feature, but it was discontinued in 2020.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of cool.
That is actually kind of cool. I like that. They should have led with that one.
Yeah.
And tab grouping. So apparently Firefox can't do that.
I'm pretty sure it can.
They say no tab grouping.
Maybe.
Oh, Opera browser allows you to group them into separate workspaces.
Isn't that just different?
Maybe
Windows?
that's different to how you do it on Firefox.
Maybe you can't group tabs, actually, to be fair.
Yeah, okay, so that's what you got, and that's just Chromium.
I can't see an option to do it.
And then they got a bunch of other bollocks. They got, they got some stuff that Firefox does that Opera doesn't. But yeah.
Like I say, the reason that I'm going to continue to use Firefox is because while people still use Firefox, it means that Google don't have complete control over how the internet is developed.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not just like, oh, we've got our own one that's,
Yeah.
just based on Chromium.
Yeah.
But speaking of that music player app, I noticed a few podcasting platforms in there.
Oh, yeah?
Is that also where you can find the Scrambled Checksum every other Monday?
I wouldn't like to comment, really. I don't know whether... I'm sorry. If you're listening to this podcast through Opera, I'm very sorry that you were conned into...
So if you're listening through the built-in music player...
Yeah, I'm very sorry that you have absolutely no technical skill whatsoever, and I have no idea how you got here.
But you can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Tidal, and Deezer. All right, that's all. We're on all. Right?
We're on Apple Podcasts, yeah. Spotify, yeah. Is Google Podcast been sunset yet? I feel like we asked this every time. July. No. Yeah. So Google Podcast for now. Pocket Casts, YouTube.
Can't be listened to Pocket Cast through Opera, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
Well, Pocket Casts is my personal pick. I'm a Pocket Cast stan. Yeah. I think that's it. Sorry, this one's been a bit heavier than usual. Don't know why I'm apologising because no one's going to listen to it anyway. But it's been a good talk, and thank you, Kieran, for your for the conversation. I appreciate that. It was a conversation that I'm sure we would have had in great detail, whether or not we had the podcast or not. But
exactly, and it was it's a poignant topic. So
yeah, I think it's important to have these conversations.
Yeah, exactly. We can't all be, jokes at Opera's expense, and you know.
Yeah.
Hey, Opera, if you do still want to sponsor us.
Final question: should I accept an offer for £200 to buy my iPad? Bear in mind that I originally listed it for £270, which I think is a more than fair price, considering
Absolutely
the fact
not.
that it comes with a folio cover that's an Apple one that is in excellent condition and costs like £50 new.
No, tell them to get lost. That's not worth it.
But okay. It's been listed for 2 weeks, and it's the first offer I've had in about 10 days.
Screw 'em.
Okay, cool. Right, thank you very much for listening.
They're lowballing you.
See you later. Bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Next time on the podcast, Ethan explains why he had to accept £100 for his iPad.